Okay. All right, here we are. We are live, and today on my Kristy's virtual chats session, I have the wonderful Anfernee Chansamootih and Anfernee, and I have known each other for quite a while. Hi, welcome.
Hi.
I can't even remember how many years we've known each other, and I don't even remember how we met. Do you remember?
Oh man, I cannot remember.
I'm sure it's a networking event.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Oh, you know what it was? We had it. It was a networking event. I just remember there was another coach that was with us. What was her name? Not older is not the right word. But it was an event at. It was basically a business networking event.
Yeah.
And there was a media lady doing she was talking about getting PR, and we were all in the room, and that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's been many years, and we've done lots of bits and pieces. But the reason, I mean, we haven't had a chat like this for quite a while. I think I've done one of your podcasts before, but I think now's a really good time to bring you in, just because of where you're at the moment with working with Bean Ninjas and sort of what you're seeing in the space. And how Bean Ninjas is supporting people. But leading up to that, I want to kind of have people understand your journey, because you've got such a colourful journey in the last few years with you and your gorgeous wife, Cindy, and your personal development sort of, wave that you've been riding. So tell us a little bit about kind of where you came from and what led you to here.
So I think the quickest way to do this story is to say I'm currently working in a role that involves community management and education and running workshops and things like this, and marketing. And I've been in marketing for about 10 years now, but I've never done a marketing degree. So I actually started off studying arts was one of the things I was studying, but also a computer science degree back at Sydney University some number of years ago now. And I went down the traditional path, I suppose, of getting a job and then listening to the parents' advice and all these sort of things, and realized, after I'd say about 6 years in corporate, that it wasn't working for me. And I was actually, let's just say the universe gave me that message, and it wasn't something that I consciously thought. And I ended up in hospital for 2 months with a brain surgery. And that was basically the awakening. And then I kind of looked at my life at that point in time and went, yeah, what am I doing? And, making good money, but I'd been single for 4 years. I hadn't traveled much apart from what work entailed, and then just realized that climbing the corporate ladder wasn't what it was painted, the picture that it's painted to be. And I actually at that time started to investigate other leaders who are in the company, but also outside of the company I remember reading a blog post someone wrote. They had been an executive in a really big Fortune 500 company, and they basically said, yeah, when you get to the top, it doesn't get better, it gets worse. And it's like, no time for kids, no time for family. The pressures are greater. Now you've got 1,000 people that you're responsible for, all these other things. And it made me realize, like, do I want that? And to get there, it's quite cutthroat in corporate. And now this is one particular culture. I know some cultures are different, but I'm just generally speaking. So that ended up, long story short, I ended up in Toronto. After my surgery, I went over there, negotiated a role which was based out of Canada. I went over there for 3 years, lost my job 12 months after the GFC had hit. And so then I was in this precarious situation of, okay, I'm don't have a lot of money right now because I had dwindled my savings away, and had a good time basically.
As you do when you're in Toronto.
As you do, and then realized, oh crap, like what can I do? My visa was also one that was tied to the company that had brought me over there, which was HP. And so basically I could not legally get another job for another company until that visa was over, which meant I had to come back to Australia. Now I had a year left, so I thought, okay, well, I don't want to come back yet. I'm enjoying being over here. And I was living with some housemates, and one particular housemate said to me, hey, Anf, like, you've been teaching salsa dancing, beginner classes at this church every weekend as a volunteer. Why don't you do that out of our living room and ask people to make a donation or whatever it is, right?
Oh, how cool. I had no idea about that.
And so there was a site that had just really started to take off at that point in time. So we're going back to 2007, I think, which was meetup.com. And so I listed, beginner salsa Toronto or something, and then within 2 weeks, 200 members signed up. And then I put on the first event, said, come over to this address. Didn't tell anyone that it was my house. 5 people showed up, put some money up, took my hat out. Now I don't have my hat with me right now, but put my hat down. People put some cash in there, and I just made like, I don't know, $50 to teach 5 people how to dance for an hour. And then that became a thing. Like I was doing that for about a year and a half. That led to opportunities to teach salsa inside corporations. So they actually invited me in. Some of my students said, why don't you come and do that for us, at our company? And at the same time, but that was more like the hustle. And then I actually ended up volunteering for a couple of social enterprises, one specifically that needed some help with marketing. And I got into the world of social media. So I was learning about Facebook and Twitter. LinkedIn wasn't a thing back then. And then that's how that led to a consulting gig where I got paid to be a social media consultant. And then my visa ran out, ended up going to Laos for a year. My mother had passed away in 2009. So I felt this really compelling pull to go back to my roots. And I went and lived and volunteered in Laos for almost 2 years. And I was volunteer teaching throughout the day at this amazing school called the Sunshine School. And then in the night, I was doing casual teaching, English teaching at a local business college, I guess. And so that kind of all paid my rent to stay there for that time. And I really learned a lot about just working with kids, working in education space, what makes a good learner, what makes a good teacher, what makes a terrible teacher. I've had my mistakes. And that kind of, and then also and then I was using my marketing skills to help attract more volunteers to the school, which is what they wanted and what they needed. And that program's still running, which is really cool. And so, they never had a website until I came along, and I basically set up their Facebook page and did certain things. And that led me back to Australia. After 2 years, came back to Oz, launched a social media / Facebook marketing business with a mate of mine that I met at an event. And that's when we ran into you. So Poi was my business partner back then. And we did that for 2 years before we decided we had to let that go. And that was how does that relate to where I am now? During that time, that business, though it was making money, we, the founders, were not making money. So there was revenue coming in, it was climbing every month, and we were doing a lot of speaking gigs all over the city and all over Australia. But then at the end of the day, we looked at our accounts and said, like, we're still sleeping on our couches at home, like in our parents' houses and stuff like this. There's something wrong here. It's not working. And so then we made the call. And we were also going in different directions. So we split. And then I actually had a chat with Poi a couple of days ago on Facebook saying, the big mistake we had was we didn't get financially literate. We didn't understand how to really turn a profit and pay ourselves a wage and then, and build a team. So these were the 3 things that stood out to me were massive flaws in our business model. And we had never learned that, and no one had actually, all the coaches and business coaches and consultants and gurus that we were following didn't even teach us those things. Like they were teaching us other skills, like how to speak on a stage. But, and this is what I see now working for a online bookkeeping a company is a lot of business owners struggle with understanding their numbers and how to make sure that they are sustainable.
That's one of my biggest area. I I've got to be careful how I frame this, right? Because I used to say I'm so bad at my numbers, but I've got to stop saying that, because that's basically making me believe that I'm bad at it. I'm not bad at it. My business for the last 10 years has grown steadily every single year, but it's not exponential growth. It's not, I'm in a service-based business. And so, I have very small margins. And so it's not a huge amount of profit that comes through every month, but I never ever got taught how to budget, how to cash flow project, none of that. Like that, I still look at that and it scares the pants off me, because I'm just like, I don't know. Like up until last year, I never had a business account for my money. It was all in the one personal account, because I'm a sole trader.
Yep.
So all of those little things we really don't get taught about. So because of that, talk me through, I mean, that's an issue obviously, but talk me through how Bean Ninjas is solving that problem for people.
So there's something that I've learned so I've worked with a team for about 2 years now. Before that, they were a client. So I had after the business I talked about, the Facebook ad agency, I actually launched a content marketing agency. So I was basically producing content for different businesses, and Bean Ninjas was one of our first clients. So that's when I met Meryl, who's the CEO. And something that sort of really resonated with me was his idea that, it's so easy to register a business, and the message out there in the market or on social media, whatever you're looking at, is, we're in a recession right now. We're about to get into a really big one. And so now is the time to launch the business, because it's going to be, everyone's kind of at an equal footing. The economy is crashing. Therefore, now is the most easiest time. The internet's there. There's a really, you can register an ABN online. You can set up a bank account very easily. So these things are there. The one thing that's missing from all of that, and I feel is sort of imperative, is you also, before you start getting clients and doing all these sort of things, you need to learn how to read the books. Like you actually have to get, or as part of the process, you need to understand, like just what you said, Kristy, separate your business from your personal accounts, right? Just that one step is going to save you a ton of pain 2 or 3 years down the line, when it's like time to do your tax return and your accountant's going like, this is really messy and ugly, right?
Yep.
And I had that problem too. Like I was running everything through a personal credit card, and then realized, okay, when it's accounting time, it's a mess. And so something that we really focus on with what we've come to understand with our clients at Bean Ninjas is the first block is really a mindset block. And you've already so said that when you said, I used to say that I don't know numbers or didn't know numbers well. And that comes up. We launched a course last year, which we called Financial Literacy for Small Business. And then people were attracted to it. And we, in our sort of validation process to understand what were the specific challenges and how could we actually support them, what we realized very quickly was there was a confidence issue, right? So it was, we would hear things like, I don't know, I'm quite embarrassed when I see my accountant because I don't know what they're saying, right? Or I have a bookkeeper and they send me these reports, but I don't look at them because I don't understand what's on it. Or what I should be what am I looking for, right?
Yeah, that's right. Like, thanks for the report, but like walk me through it a bit, please.
And it's a big puzzle. And then the other side of it is the mindset issue, which is I've been telling myself for years I'm not a numbers person. And look, I completely resonate with that, because I would say the same thing. Like I wasn't trained as an accountant. I'm for me, it's like I would say, if anything, I'm good at speaking, I'm good at teaching, I'm good at writing. Certainly, these are the skills, and I would associate myself to those things. But if you were to say to me, "Anf, are you a numbers guy?" I'd say, "Hell no." Exactly. And that's also been a block in my own life journey. And when I got married to Cindy, now she comes from she did corporate accounting for large, like the top 4, EY and these companies. So she did she was in their finance section.
Hey, there you go.
And she's been a big motivator and support in helping me understand, okay, this is how to do a budget, and this is how you look at Xero or Wave or whatever tools we were using. and these are the things you need to be looking at, and this is the percentage you need to put away every month to make sure we do have savings and that we have a rainy day fund and these sort of things. If you want to go on holiday, you have to save up for it and make sure. And this year particularly, we've implemented a debt reduction account. So basically, just I've got personal loan I need to get to get rid of. My goal is to actually close that account by the end of this year, and then that would then turn into an investment account. So whatever percentage goes into that would then become a percentage that we put into things we want to invest in. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So there's a movement from confidence with finances to then getting practical. Working with someone who knows what they're doing, who's been through it, who has expertise and experience to actually guide you through the steps of setting up your, we call it a financial system. So basically, like you have your daily routine, you might have a to-do list on your, whatever you do, or you might have a business project management system that you use to manage your operations or your marketing, right? A lot of companies have those things in place. The one thing they don't have is a financial system. And so it's like, okay, get that into place first, set that up. So understand, and it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be, and now this is, remember, I'm not an accountant talking about accounting, okay?
No.
And so it's really simple.
I tell people about this as well with regards, because, I talk to a lot of people, about setting their business up for success. And that's one of the topics that we're talking about today. It's how can you expect, because, we're talking about outsourcing as well, a lot of what we're doing. How can you expect somebody to come in and assist you with what you want done if you haven't got it set up so that you understand it yourself? Right?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And so I'll sort of clarify the two types or groups of business owners that we support, right? So we have the early stage solo entrepreneur like you and I, building. So whether it's like a freelance type business, we've got graphic designers and people like that who are creatives, and they will always say, I'm creative, but I'm not a numbers person. And that's kind of the disconnect in terms of mindset. And we say, well, actually, maybe you're a creative, you have creative skill and ability and talents, but you can also learn these other things. Just the same way that you would have to invest a lot of time to learn, say, Photoshop or Illustrator or whatever tool that you're using. Put that time to now learning Xero or whatever that you want to use, right? Start with a spreadsheet.
The education side of things comes into it, and the teaching, because that's the biggest thing that I find is you go and you choose an accountant, or you go and you decide that you're going to work with a bookkeeper, but the problem is if they're not putting out a whole heap of education, or if they're not in some way informing you of best practice around certain things. So because I feel that from a financial point of view, with a business owner, you want to be guided and told what to do. You don't want to be given 30 options and go, just you walk away and decide what's best for you. Because with finance, if you're not good at it, you need to be told how to be. Like it's the same with most things, right? I don't want 20 options on what platform to use. Just tell me, download Xero, get yourself on it. Here's what you need to set up. Here's how you run it.
Yeah. So that education piece is huge, and I'm glad that you brought that up. Like, to go to an accountant, and if you want them to be the ones who teach you, that can be very expensive, right? Because accountants bill per hour, right?
Yeah.
And then if you're outsourcing to a bookkeeper, say based in the Philippines or wherever it may be, they can go in and do the books for you, right? But they're not going to be able to explain how you make decisions around those things, right? And so it's important. This is the reason why we've actually got within our business, we have a financial coach, all right? So basically their role is to help you, one, set up the tool, but also two, educate you on what are the different concepts and ideas based on what your specific business goals are. So when we start, so we've got this course, as you're aware, called Financial Foundations for Small Business. And when we start that, when students come on, the first step is actually to spend 15 minutes with the financial coach to understand what are their business objectives, all right? And what are their financial business objectives related to the business, okay? And also personal. So if you say, well, my goal is to make 100 grand this year, that's my salary, so I can support my family and pay my rent because I'm living in Sydney and it's ridiculous to rent out here. And then I want, the business needs to be profitable and I want to get, 30% profit, within 2 years or whatever your goal might be. And the coach will help you work out some of those things. And then from then we can go, okay, now that we know what you're trying to do, and this is, I'm assuming you would do that with your clients as well. Like you kind of understand what's the personal and professional and then goal.
Why? Yeah.
And then we go, okay, well, this is the system. Let's set that up and let's make sure, your chart of accounts, your reports, all these things, customized, so then they give you the information that you need to make the decisions that you want to make along the way, right? And if you're going blindly and you don't do those things, what happens, your business is actually at a massive risk, because if you can outsource the work, you cannot outsource the decision making and the responsibility, right?
Correct.
Because,
and that's why you need to understand. You don't need to do it, you just need to understand it. That's the biggest thing. I'm just going to break here to say hello to the people that have joined us live. Thank you very much, Deb. Hi. If you guys have any specific questions for Anf, particularly around, education around finances, I think, is where his expertise is, and just understanding where the foundations and what you need to start thinking about, please pop them into the comments, because that will help us answer any burning questions that you might have, and say hi to us in the comments.
Welcome.
So the education piece is really great. So we were talking offline before this just a little bit about, what's going on right now. And, I've had a number of conversations last week with people asking me, Kristy, how's your business doing? How are you faring? Because a lot of people aren't doing so well. And, my answer was, actually, I'm faring really well, and things are okay. Yesterday, that all changed. Yesterday, I lost 62% of my business in a week. Now, that wasn't because of not providing the right services or whatever. It's because businesses are doing it bloody tough right now. So what can we do as a business when we find ourselves in that position? What are some key things that we can do to actually lift us out of that and make us feel like there's something, on the horizon? What can we be doing?
That's a great question. And this is why I'm so passionate about education, and really understanding where people are, where the economy is. I'm not an economist by any stretch. I'm not going to be reading the Economist anytime soon. But it's more around just going, okay, what is happening in society right now, or in your local community, or whatever, whoever you serve, right? Are you familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
Yes, but some people might not be. So
all right. So maybe I can pull up this. Can I do a share screen for a sec?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's try this. This is new. I've never done this before. Okay. So can everyone see this?
There we go.
Yep. Okay. It looks a bit blurry because this is a screenshot of a presentation that we actually had a business consultant run a webinar for us before this call. And his name's John Logar. If you don't know who he is, oh my God, what happened? He's awesome. And basically what he shared was, right now, okay, so there's a guy by the name of Maslow, a psychologist going back maybe 50 years ago. He came up with this model and basically said that for most humans, we have different levels of need, right? So we start from the bottom. So we start with physiological, where we need, obviously food, shelter, water, these sort of things. And then once we have that, okay, then we've got safety needs. So we've got personal security. We want to be employed. We want to have our health, right? We want to maybe own a property. And that's been the big, coming back to the early 20s and 30s, the big Australian dream was to own a house with a white picket fence and all that. And then you go into love and belonging, which is a level up, which is, okay, I need friendship. I want intimacy. I want to have a family. I want to feel like I'm connected. and that could be also connected to spirit or to God or whatever it may be. And that moves us into the higher level, which is esteem, which is about status now, recognition, about feeling free, right? So, and then at the top is where I realize self-actualization is really about that I'm more than just this human being, this body, that I have a purpose, that there's a reason for me to be here, that I can support, humanity in some way, right? Now, in a normal economy, and like if we go back 3 months or maybe 5 months ago, most people were focused along this. Most people, particularly if you're in Australia and you're, middle of the pack, you kind of, most of us belong at a stage where we have a house, we've got somewhere to live, we have family, we've got friends, we've got a social network, we've got, maybe the business is running and that's fine. We've got our employment. And so at that point, we're looking at the top 2 levels. We're looking at, well, how can I be the best version of me, and how can I support others, and how can I, be recognized for those things, and have, whether it's financial freedom or whatever it may be. In a recession where we are now, we're actually, those people don't think about those top 2 layers. They're now thinking about everyone's being forced down to the bottom 3 levels, particularly the safety level. Okay. So everyone now is thinking about, do I still have a job? Do I still have clients? Do I have regular income coming through? Oh my gosh, I just lost, a percentage of my business overnight. What do I do? I got to take care of my kids and my family. Do I have savings? Right. These sort of things are going through a lot of people's minds right now. And we are not alone. Like, this is Australia, it's America, it's Europe, it's everywhere right now. Okay. And so what does it mean for small businesses? It actually means that we have a time to accept that's what's happening, right? And then we have to now go through that process of internalizing it. It took me about 3 weeks to go through this myself, and then just go and get past the feeling of overwhelm. I'd highly recommend, if you're following the news and the Facebook feeds and everyone talking about COVID-19, shut it off. It is going to drive you crazy, and you're going to feel so overwhelmed. And you might not have anyone in your family tested positive, and that's great. Like, you're in a great place. But you can get really sucked into all of that, right? And it's just negative. And guess what? The message coming out from governments, the message coming out from the media, it's all fear-based messaging, right? And so we don't like to stay in fear. Like that. That is a really terrible place to be. And so you want to move out of that. You go, and the way we do that is we go through support, like communities like yours that you've set up, Kristy, is amazing, where we can talk about these issues. We can jump on a call with a mate and have a chat, talk to your family members, your spouse, your family, whatever, right? Now, coming back to the question, what we need to do is, if everyone else is looking at safety needs, and if you're also looking at that, then the best way to move from safety to the next level up, as you can see in this visual, is you actually move into the energy of love and belonging, right? So that means building up your social network. It means building up your community. It means, right, connecting with the people that know and appreciate you, that you resonate with and have shared values with, all right? It also means connecting outside of that, your immediate circle, and looking at, well, where are the communities and groups that exist that I can connect with like-minded people, okay, and jump into those. Now, the beautiful thing about everyone being locked at home right now is everyone's jumping in on creating all these webinars and virtual meetings, Facebook Lives. And so you can actually utilize that, right? And then connect and build your expertise. This is an example of it. Like, I'm jumping on here, I just want to have a chat with Kristy, catch up, but also just say, hey, this is where I'm at. All right. 3 years ago, I was doing something else. Now I'm doing something else. And this is how, we can support each other. And you need to think about your business. So if we want to go to brass tacks, putting my marketing hat on now for a moment, you need to look at, well, what were you selling previously? Right. If I go to your website and look at your website, does it actually speak to where people are psychologically now? Right. So does it actually talk to, safety? Does it actually talk to belonging? Does it talk to, making sure that they're feeling secure, that your service or whatever you do actually gives them those things that they're seeking right now? Okay. Because, we had that as a problem at Being Ninjas, like, because we, for the most beginning of this year, we really kicked off with this talk about financial freedom, and that's what our clients wanted. You know, they're building these businesses because they want to be financially free, right? But then as soon as this, you know, pandemic hit, we needed to shift our message. Okay, we need to meet our clients where they were, which is, I'm not thinking about freedom, man. Like that was last month. I'm thinking right now, right? I'm thinking about how the hell do I survive?
That's it.
Yeah, so I'm going to stop sharing that for a second. But the key is now you need to shift your messaging. You also need to look at your product, whatever your product or service is. Okay, how can you, does it still make sense to offer that particular product or service right now? Or can you tweak it, or what a lot of people are calling the pivot? Can you pivot it so that you can actually focus on the parts of that service or the part of your business that actually supports clients to do these things, to achieve these things, right? And it may, by asking those questions, it may, what may come out of that is other opportunities. All right. So you might jump on, like something that we're doing at Being Ninjas is we're jumping on with all our best clients, right? All of our clients actually, and having one-on-one calls with them and just saying, look, you know, where's your business at right now? Are you in safety, or are you up here where you're like in a good place and you're getting a lot of clients because for whatever reason you're in a good market and the business is taking off? And then how can we best support you right now? Right. And then by having those conversations, your clients will reveal, hey, this is what I need, Anf, right? This right now for the next 6 months, let's just help me solve this thing, right? And then if you can do that, you've retained the client, so you haven't lost the client. And then you're building that trust, and that new thing that you're using, that pivoted, you know, offer, you can then go to the market with, change your website, go to the market and go, hey, this is what I'm offering now to support businesses that are going through challenges with their safety, challenges with their, resourcing, or they've had to let people go and the finance is not great. And a big part of what we're doing strategically is also just educating the market and just going out there with free webinars, with free resource kits that we're putting on our website and putting out there, just to demonstrate your positioning. And your willingness to help.
That's great advice. I think that's, you know, that one-on-one chats, and I did that not via phone. I did that via email and did personal emails to every one of my clients. And look, you know, what I was afraid of was that they were going to say, yeah, I'm really struggling, I'm sorry, but I've got to cut the services, right? But what it actually did was, yes, some of them did that because they really are struggling and it's not an essential service for them. However, the ones that were using us full-time just dropped down to half-time.
Yes.
You know, and they don't want to let go of the services. They want to keep it going. So, you know, that was, in my eyes, that was very supportive. That was, you know, that was good to see that, so that I know that once they've worked their way through this, it'll move back up to where it was. So I think that's interesting. I just want to throw in a question that Deborah Evans has put in. What's the biggest rookie error that people make with setting up or tracking their financial systems? It's a great question.
I think great question. Was it Deb? And I think to answer that question, the biggest rookie error, I think, would be just trying to go for the cheapest and the free option. I actually feel that it makes sense if you're just starting out to just get a Google sheet or an Excel and just use that so you can understand the concepts. But that's still, there are certain, depending on where your business is at, there are certain things that the biggest benefit of using a tool like Xero, there's others out there, QuickBooks and whatever it may be, is they have inbuilt within those are automation systems. So what does that mean? So it means, okay, think about it this way. The traditional way of bookkeeping is to get all your receipts, assuming you get physical receipts, or whatever it may, and we used to like put them in shoebox, and then once a year we'd come and look at that and go, oh, that was fun. I have no idea what that was. That was 6 months ago. And and then we'd have to scan them or whatever, take a photo of them and upload them, right? And get it to your bookkeeper. Or if we go back 5 years ago, you would hand all of that to your bookkeeper or accountant, and they'd hate you, all right? So
cost a fortune in getting them to put it all back into your system.
yeah, but now a tool like Xero, what it does is you can actually when you have a receipt or an invoice coming through inbox, whatever it may be, you can forward it via email to a specific email address. It then actually takes a recording of that that invoice or that receipt, and it puts it into Xero for you, and then it basically automatically reconciles it, right? So so you don't have to sit there and manually go through like trying to remember what these transactions were. It automatically looks at, okay, this came in, this looks like a marketing expense based on whatever you've set up as a in your chart of accounts, and then it will just be whatever your rule is, and then it will automatically sync the two things together, and that's just saved you, I don't know, a couple of hours a week. We actually had a client a student who came through the course the last round, and she ended up really understanding what she needed her VA to do and what the system could do already that her VA was doing. And that freed up that VA's time to work on other things, which is really useful for optimizing both the VA's time, but also the business owner's time, right? Yeah. And so that was
it's
just
great.
an example. Yeah.
Can I say, Deb, as well, that, you know, when I first started my business, I didn't have Xero. I used something, I started using a spreadsheet, but very quickly started using something that was called Sasu at the time. And I was so happy that I had that system, and I moved over to Xero many years ago now. But Xero is just so brilliant. As an example, I've got Xero set up for me with this new JobKeeper allowance that the government are doing. Xero are so switched on. They've basically sent an email yesterday to say, click here to do your calculator. So Xero's got an inbuilt calculator to let you know what your percentage of loss is, and to, you know, make sure that you are eligible for the JobKeeper. Like, there's so many different great things that Xero are on top of, and I think if it almost acts like an accountant, you know, for you, from the sense of the reporting it can do for you, the, you know, forecasting, the budgeting, the everything. Like, I've got my dashboard is brilliant. I absolutely love being able to look at that. I feel more in control, and I think as a rookie error, when we're talking about that, when you're not in control of your finances and you don't know what the hell to be looking for or to be reporting on, and you don't have something like Xero, then that's going to be an issue for you. So Xero allows that dashboard view. I can have a look at my percentage cost of sales. I've got that percentage there. I know, you know, because someone has said to me, or Xero course, I think, I know that if it drops below a certain percentage, then I'm not getting the most out of, you know, the revenue streams that are coming through. I know what my receivables and payables are at any one point in time, so I can get onto my virtual assistant to say, hey, we've got $3,000 sitting there waiting to be brought in. Can you please chase it up? You know, just little things like that. It really helps you in control. So I would say, yeah, that biggest rookie error is not having a system that gives you full view of what's going on.
Yeah, and I'd add to that, if I'll step a layer before that, right? I'll actually say the system is not the solution to a financial literacy issue. Now, if your challenge is actually you don't understand some of the concepts, like, you know, you talked about whether it's a P&L and whatever it may be, if you need to address that as well. Okay, and so it's like anything. Yeah, if you don't educate yourself on understanding, well, what is my profit margin? What is you know, what am I aiming for? What's good? What's standard? Are you implementing a system? We now have a program to help business owners with Profit First and understanding how that works. Right? It's a concept. It's a book. You haven't read it, Deb, and anyone else watching this, highly recommend you read Profit First. It's a great. I implemented that in my business 2 years ago, and it just changed. Like, that was the first time. After 3 years of not getting paid, I finally got myself paid, and then was you know, every month putting away a bit of profit. Okay, and that money could be reinvested in hiring staff or contractors or whatever it is that you need to do with it. Or at the end of the year, you can take it out and have a, you know, that could be a personal win or whatever it is for you. But
Yeah.
Understand the concepts, educate yourself, get yourself literate, and then use a tool at the same time, like what Chris is saying, use something like Xero, which will help you then give you a nice dashboard or a dashboard look at the important information that you need, right?
I think know what it is you need.
Yeah. Well, that's where a financial coach or working someone like that comes into play,
exactly.
Or a business coach if you have one. Yeah.
So let's talk about this. So Bean Ninjas. So I've actually done this course, and I did this. So the lovely thing about Bean Ninjas and Meryl, I think through you and from when you were writing content for them a little while back, a few years back, there was a couple of things that came through in the content that really grabbed me. And a lot of it was around understanding in simple layman's terms and things like that. And so what I loved about Meryl was her journey as well. She was so open about the fact that, you know, she wasn't $1 million turnover business. She had to get investment to keep the business going and, you know, things like that. And so I flew up to the Gold Coast.
Yes, that's right.
On a whim, like I contacted her and said, would you be interested in having a chat with me? I'm looking for a mentor. I'm looking for somebody that I can talk to that is down to earth. And I did. And I went and had that conversation with her. And it just really helped me settle into the fact that, you know what, you don't have to be this big hustler. You don't have to be, you know, earning millions of dollars. Even if you're only, you know, turning over $500,000, you've got a lot to offer, and you're in control. As long as you're in control of what you're doing and you understand what you're doing, you know. So I went and then did this financial course mainly so that my VAs could have something to learn from. And as you just mentioned earlier, it was a brilliant foundation for them. And it was really good for me. There were so many things that I implemented that I didn't know about. So I recommend that everybody jump on. It's Bean Ninjas keeping this open for anyone watching this using my code Kristy until May the 7th. We're very grateful for that. Thank you. And if you do want to get onto that, you just go to this link. I'll pop that link into the notes as well, into the comments. But I totally suggest you do this. You know, Meryl has got so much to give. She's so generous in her knowledge and the way that she gives that information. So please jump on there if you just want if you just want to go back to the foundations and make sure that you've got everything set up well, right? I think it's a really good place to start.
Yeah, and if you don't have Xero, like it's designed for people who use Xero, and if you don't have Xero, you can sign up for a free trial with Xero, and that's a good way to go. But even if you don't, the course itself does teach the financial foundations, so it doesn't really rely on you having a specific tool. It's more around these are the concepts, and obviously the screenshots and shares are using Xero, but you can apply to anything else you're using. Yeah,
absolutely. Excellent. So anything that you would like to leave us with before we finish up?
I think it just, coming back to that situation that we're at now, and you know, you've lost a client, I lost a client, like these things are happening. It's really, now is the time to connect with the people who know you. It's time to really focus on what is your message and how you serve and who you want to serve and who you resonate with, and then don't stop marketing. I think there's a lot of businesses out there, because their cash is tight, they're kind of cutting it down and going, I'm not going to market. I think that's the biggest mistake you can do right now, because it's been proven in past recessions, the businesses that continue to market during recession ended up thriving on the other side of it. And those who didn't ended up dying. So, you know,
that's a huge thing. And I'll tell you, so, I mean, knowing that all my clients, you know, are struggling and we've had that drop, the one thing that I've done is I've dropped admin, my admin staff hours. I've dropped that right back, but my marketing team I've actually increased. So we're doing some really interesting, cool things to basically reconnect, because we've done nothing, right? So now's the time to get in and actually spend that money on writing blogs, doing videos, optimizing YouTube channels, providing tons and tons and tons of valuable content. Yep,
100%. So that's it. Stay positive. switch off the news and join more of these conversations.
Actually,
And
from that, what I've done is there's a there's a, I don't know if it's an app, but it's something that you can sign up to called Squiz.
Squeeze.
Squiz. And Squiz basically gives you the snapshot of news for the day, so that you're not scrolling through Apple News or whatever. It just gives you a snapshot of really cool things. And I look at that in the morning, and then that's it. I don't look at anything else throughout the day.
Yep. We there's a really great story of the two wolves. Comes back from like an Indian legend or something, which is basically we have two wolves that sort of dominate our mind. One is sort of the negative, the one that's really focused on all the negative, and one's focused on the positive. And we, as beings, have the choice every single moment throughout every single day to look at, well, where is my mind? And something that's definitely come to light as a result of the lockdowns has been the need for more focus on mental health. And, you know, as entrepreneurs, we go through the hustle and we get so busy and we're running all around like crazy all the time. And if they're smart, people will obviously outsource to Kristy's business and get some nice VAs on board. But even then, like we have to be in charge of our own mental and physical and spiritual well-being. And if you don't like really take control of that, doesn't matter how where your business goes, it will not thrive if you are not thriving as a human being.
True. Beautifully said. Lovely way to end.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you everybody for joining us. If you have any further questions, you know where to pop them into the comments, and I will make sure that they're answered for you. Enjoy your day. Thanks again.
Thank you.